Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Locally grown food is an important piece of Vermont's economy, and it is growing. According to the State Department of Agriculture, local food purchases have more than doubled in the past decade, from $114 million to $310 million. Keeping our farm and food businesses open during the pandemic hasn't always been easy, but from the beginning, the UVM Extension Agricultural Engineering Team has played an important role. In just a moment, we'll learn about the latest effort to keep our food businesses healthy and thriving. But Keith Silva takes us back to last summer, when even farmers markets were threatened by the pandemic.
There's something new in the wash at Vermont farmers markets.
Hand washing remains one of the best ways to prevent the spread of germs. The CDC is pretty emphatic about that. And so the thought was, what can we do to make hand washing more accessible and available in places that we might not traditionally think of it being? When this question came in, we started looking around at what are the options. And that's everything from existing do-it-yourself models and plans and examples to commercially available, integrated, prefabricated, assembled units. On the one hand, you have a do-it-yourself approach, which is relatively inexpensive. And on the other end, you have commercially available products quite a bit more expensive. When we looked at that range, one of the things we were thinking about is, do they work well? And can we possibly improve on them?
Walk us through what you and your colleague Andy Chamberlain in the UVM Extension Agricultural Engineering Program have come up with as a solution.
We literally just went back to the drawing board. Andy and I sat down and spent a couple of hours just thinking through, here's the problem. We need a way to wash hands where we don't have a sink and running water and plumbing. How do we bring the plumbing to the people? It's things like making sure we have a known clean water supply. And so that translated into having a 5-gallon tote of water that has a cap on it. You fill it from a potable source or a known clean source, and you bring that wherever you need it. It's hands-free operation of that water. So we put a spigot on that tote that's spring-loaded, and you can actually attach a cable to that, and run it down to a foot pedal instead of having to push that spigot down with your finger like a coffee urn. Yep. You can run it with your foot. So your hands are now free. They haven't touched the spigot, and they're free to focus on the business of washing your hands. It's having gray water collection. So that water, now we've washed our hands, it has soap in it. Where does it go? We don't want it on the ground. We don't want it at your feet. So we collect that in a second 5-gallon tote. The water goes into a basin that drains to this tote. That water's collected. You can cap it up and dispose of it properly off-site. Hands-free dispensing of soap, hands-free dispensing of paper towels. Again, a lot of the focus was, how do we make this so that we don't have lots of different people touching surfaces that we're counting on being clean?
The cost of a commercial portable hand washing station ranges from $400 to $2,000. What Callahan and Chamberlain have built costs less than $175.
Everything is hands-free, no touch, including the water with the foot pedal. Hands-free soap dispenser, the paper towels where the only thing you touch is the towel itself, and the waste basket is also hands-free. It's all off-the-shelf items, so it's very easy to do, no craftsmanship required. The only thing you have to do is drill a couple holes. So I drilled a hole in the spigot here where a spring clip connects to a piece of cable down to the foot pedal. So then you can just step on the foot pedal, and then the water goes into this, is actually an oil drain pan. With a fitting in it. So the tubing goes from the oil drain pan down into the collection bucket. So the gray water gets collected and is not just dribbling all over your feet.
As with any design, Callahan sees room for improvement, and he looks forward to learning from others in the DIY community and from other farmers markets around the region how to improve on what he's developed.
If it's not this specific part, what is the function that part is providing that somebody might be able to find something else for? In fact, we ran into this in our own prototype building. I used a bus tote for the basin, a restaurant busing tote for the basin. Andy went to drill a hole in his, and it cracked. And so he had to find something else readily available. He went to the hardware store, oil drain pan, boom. The next step is to capture some of those lessons learned, write them up. We're trying to be pretty quick with this, and not let perfect be the enemy of good enough. But capture that in a document that we can then just provide as an open source guide for people to really take and run with. And that's the important thing about it's not just these specific designs. We're not suggesting these are the only 2 designs people should build. These are 2 examples. Take a look at the design features, make it your own, and improve on it. And that's the open source community in a nutshell.
The Extension agricultural engineering team provided downloadable plans for the touchless hand washing stations, which help contribute to the safe operations and success of several farmers markets. And now there are even more hand washing stations at farm and food businesses around the state and around the world. To learn how all that happened, we're joined by Chris Callahan and Andy Chamberlain from UVM Extension. Thank you both for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Pleasure to be here.
So, Chris, first, what's taken place since the first touchless hand washing station was put into operation last spring?
Well, Andy and I don't really ever stop thinking about these kinds of things. And so one thing that's happened is we kept thinking about how to improve it. The other thing that's happened is we had some great feedback from users and from other people who've tried to build it. Things like, how are we going to use these things in the winter? Keep water warm, and folks who had better ideas for the foot pedals and things like that. So constant improvement. And then the other big thing that happened is we got some money to actually supply materials for 36 additional stations throughout the state.
Fantastic. So that grant funding helped out with what materials, or depending on need, and people wrote in and say, I need this part, how do I do this? Or how did that work?
Exactly. It was, on the one hand, it paid for the materials, so to relieve that burden from people, the financial burden, but also we decided to not only pay for the material, but also try to put together kits specific to individual site needs. What did they have and what could they use? Some people just needed some support, some educational support and some information because they had plumbing and they just needed a sink. Other people needed a complete kit. They needed hand washing in a place where there wasn't running water.
Right, awesome. And so, Andy, let's bring you in. How are you able to identify and reach the businesses that needed help?
Yeah, so when this grant opportunity arose, we very quickly figured out a plan of how we can get these hand wash stations out to agriculture businesses across the state. So what we did was assemble social media posts and Facebook lists and got out the word that these kits could become available. And then we reached out to them, those that showed interest, and were able to assemble these kits. So they were custom tailored to whatever the farm needed, like Chris said, whether it be just a simple sink or a DIY solution. We helped figure out what they needed, and then I went and delivered them all over the state.
Well, let's take a look at the map of the new hand washing station sites. They were all over the states. And tell us about that adventure.
An adventure it certainly was. So after kitting up these 30 different hand wash station kits, which included racks and pre-cut lumber and plumbing supplies and various hardware, they all got kitted together, and I borrowed my dad's truck and spent 3 days doing loops across the state. So I did a north loop, a south loop, and a central loop to do about 10 deliveries a day and get these stations out to the farms. And then I kind of dropped them off, gave them a voicemail and said, hey, got a hand wash station just delivered to your doorstep. If you have any questions, reach out, let me know. But you're welcome, and Merry Christmas, because it was just before Christmas break.
Well, I'm sure it was a great gift. What kind of feedback have you received?
The feedback has been phenomenal. A lot of people were really happy just to get the plans and have access to solve this problem on their own. Others were very excited for the actual supplies delivered to them. That was both a financial ease, providing us, letting us do that for them. And a lot of them, it was just super helpful to have this kit basically ready to go delivered to them. And that was a burden that was eased for them, that they now have a hand wash station.
And Chris, what else did you hear? What's been the impact of this project?
You know, I was a little bit surprised at at this, but for many of these folks, this was a real area of anxiety and concern about not you know, they knew they needed hand washing access, but the how to do it, how to get it done was a real source of anxiety. So, you know, this unexpected grant funding really helped make this happen and extend what we'd come up with to more people and just relieve some of that anxiety. You know, for many people, this was the final piece of the puzzle to have their business stay open to the public, and also provided a little peace of mind.
And then this is online, so you were telling me 3,000 hits on this around the world, not only in Vermont, but across the country and beyond.
That's right. Yeah, and that's since about a year ago now, I guess. You know, about 3,000 views, downloads of the plans, and that's at go.uvm.edu/handwashingstation.
Okay, awesome. And people might want to get more information about you and your team. So where do they go for that? And of course, there's the blueprints there, but you're doing a lot more than that.
Right. Well, they can follow the link on the screen here, uvm.edu/extension/agriculture, and also just go.uvm.edu/ageng, AGENG.
Awesome. Chris Callahan and Andy Chamberlain, thank you so much. This is all about Vermont ingenuity and keeping Vermonters safe and businesses and farms open to business. We thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thanks for your interest.
Thanks for having us.
And thank you for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Stay well.